Hey everybody, I'm Chris from Box Coaches with boxing expert Doug Fischer. Doug, what were your thoughts on the Sergey Kovalev Nathan Cleverly-Sergey fight?
Kovalev is a complete beast. He's a monster. I had some questions about him, about his stamina, how he would handle a boxer who could take a good shot, who's got very good endurance and a high work rate like Nathan Cleverly. And I also favored Cleverly to win that fight. I thought he could get out of the early rounds and start to take it to Kovalev and maybe outwork him down the stretch to win a decision, which I thought he would have gotten, fighting in Wales, his home country. But I was dead wrong because Kovalev lives up to his nickname, Crusher, and he's not just a banger. He's somebody who's got very good technique, and he's got a high work rate, a high volume of punches, but he places his punches very well. And so even when Cleverly was covering up or protecting his chin, and like I said, Cleverly does take a good shot, his arms and his body were getting beat up to where he didn't, he's not a puncher to begin with, but had he survived those first 4 rounds, he would have had zero power because his arms were so tore up from getting hit by Kovalev's heavy punches, and he was also getting hit to his body. So the legs weren't there, so he couldn't really stick and move. So, Kovalev's strategy in those early rounds was spot on, as the British would say, because he broke Cleverly down to the point where even if he had dropped Cleverly twice in the 3rd round and he finished him in the 4th, Cleverly would have had nothing to offer over the second half of the fight. So it was really only a matter of time for Kovalev. And I'm definitely a Kovalev believer. I didn't doubt Kovalev's power. I didn't doubt his technique. He's always showed good technique. He had a good amateur background in Russia. But I did question his stamina, and I did wonder if he was a front runner. I did question that because, against Campillo, Gabriel Campillo, he fought a guy who was notoriously a slow starter and a guy who had been out of the ring for a long time. He hadn't had a fight in quite a while when he stepped in there with Kovalev, and Kovalev jumped on him and got him out of there in 3 rounds. And then Kovalev's follow-up fight against Cornelius White. Cornelius White is a first-round KO victim to Donovan George, at super middleweight. So, Cornelius White was a young guy with a nice record, but not really a world beater, not really a top contender. So it's kind of like, what is his reputation built on going into the Cleverly fight? And I was thinking, there's something to it, but there's not a lot to it. And now he's got 3 consecutive knockouts, that have been televised in the United States. And there's a big buzz on him, and I think he's earned it, And I think taking out Nathan Cleverly on Cleverly's home turf, guy who's young, undefeated, who's always shown a solid chin, I think is super impressive, and I'm definitely a Kovalev believer now.
Okay. Hey Doug, do you believe that John David Jackson, the trainer for Kovalev,
I know John David very well.
I've known him,
15 years.
Work together?
Yeah, I think it's a good combination, and I think John David is definitely coming into his own as a trainer. He's been working with fighters since the late 90s. He doesn't get a lot of credit for it, but he was an integral part of Shane Mosley's camp before Mosley upset Oscar De La Hoya the first time in 2000. So he knows what he's doing in there, and he learned from the best. He learned from great trainers like Georgie Benton and Emmanuel Stewart. He was trained by those guys, and he learned from those guys, and he's learned from the gyms. He's trained in the best gyms from Philadelphia to Los Angeles, and so there's just he's got a world of boxing knowledge that he can pass on to a young fighter who wants to learn. And Kovalev's a mature guy who, as I mentioned, has that amateur background. He's already got the good technical foundation. So what John David Jackson will do, he'll add those wrinkles. He'll add that ring generalship and that defense that all punchers need to really go from just being a KO threat to like a true world-class fighter. And I think Kovalev is a world-class fighter, and I think John David Jackson is a world-class trainer.
Who do you think Kovalev should fight? Should he fight Ward at Ward, but Ward has to go up to 175, or should he fight like Chad Dawson, the winner of Tavares Cloud, Adonis Stevenson?
Yeah, I think the winner of Adonis Stevenson, Tavares Cloud, is the ticket because he just won a title, the WBO title, from Cleverly, and Adonis Stevenson has the WBC as well as the Ring Magazine title. So a lot of folks in boxing, not everybody, but a lot of people recognize Stevenson as the real champ, the lineal champ. So Kovalev beats him. He's the man at, if he beats the winner of Stevenson Cloud, because I don't count Tavares Cloud out in that Stevenson fight, but if he beats the winner of that fight, he's got recognition as the man at 175 pounds. So then he could sit back and he could wait for these stars from super middleweight like Andre Ward or Carl Froch to step up to 175 pounds, and then those are huge fights, and those are fights he can win too.
Do you think Kovalev's going to fight Bernard Hopkins?
I don't see that happening. No, I don't see that happening. I think if I'm part of Team B-Hop, I would say Kovalev's the one guy not to fight because he's not just strong and powerful. He's got some good technique, and he's got some smart people around him, and that's dangerous for a guy who's pushing 50.
All right, Doug, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.